So I would say early on, find out what you're good at. Really focus on and believe what you're good at. And then when you're not, try to find some people to help you because they may say, "Oh, it's expensive." Well, it's more expensive to make all the mistakes and do it wrong than to have to go back and do it over again.
Chris Guerrera, welcome to Quick Before You Forget.
All right, happy to be here.
I am so pumped and so excited. So, you guys might recognize Chris from Shark Tank or Good Morning America, but I am blessed to also recognize Chris as a friend. Chris Guerrera is a mechanical engineer turned innovation powerhouse who's helping bring ideas to life at their highest level. From working on iconic launches like the BMW Z3 and X5 to guiding inventors on to national stages like Shark Tank and beyond. He loves a great idea, but his why is actually found through execution, helping people take what's in their head and actually build something that works in the real world. Through Pitch the Pros and his show, That Big Idea, he's creating a platform for the next generation of creators to stop dreaming and start doing. Let's talk through what that looks like for you, Chris, as we walk through your story today.
Yeah, for me, I've always enjoyed helping people in general. I think I get that from my mother. My mother was a very loving and helping individual, especially as a child for me, right, growing up. But I've launched thousands of products. I've worked on some really big ones with Ford Motor Company. I'm on the largest patent in the world for Ford, the 1/8 turn gas cap. A lot of work with BMW. So I've always enjoyed launching products, and I've been doing it my whole life. Then I started doing my own, and then I just see the journey with entrepreneurship and inventors, and see the struggle and who's real out there that can actually help. I see so many people selling services, but yet they've never done the journey or walked the path. So I'm like, how can you offer service? How can you tell somebody I help you get you on Shark Tank if you've never been on Shark Tank? So I see that, and I always want to give back and help because I know the journey's not easy.
It's not, and it's quite scary too on top of that. But you mentioned Shark Tank, and I want us to dive into that a little bit because you've been on Shark Tank two times.
Yep.
Yes. Can you
Yep.
talk us through those experiences?
Yeah, the first one was pretty interesting. I had decided that I wasn't going to do landscaping. I hadn't taken a vacation in probably 5 or 6 years, so I was doing a lot of work and traveling, and normally I would spend some time at my house. I had a big house up in New Hampshire, and I would do a lot of landscaping. I mean, it would take me, what, 3.5 hours just to cut my grass, right? But it was really beautifully manicured, and I had a big sport court. And I said, hey, I'm not doing that this week. Let the kids work on that. So my wife and I went to New York, and I had a couple things in mind that I wanted to do, a couple baseball games. I hadn't been in the city in a while. And I said I wanted to see Good Morning America. And when I went there Thursday morning, it was probably 5:30. One of the producers was talking to me and asking me a lot of questions. And my wife was like, she's not a morning person. Like she stays up around the clock. I'm in bed early and up early. She's the opposite. But I'm like, I think she's interviewing me to be on television. Can you at least smile? You look like you want to be here. So, long story short, it led to us getting on TV that day, talking sports and with Ginger Z. And I ultimately became friends with this producer. We followed up. She knew some people that I knew, and I had some people that she needed. And I got this random call probably 3 months later. They do Shark Tank on Good Morning America on Fridays, and then obviously Shark Tank that I was on for season 12 and the grand finale. So the first time was on Good Morning America. I got a random call at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, which is usually my kids either in trouble or needing money. Right? Those are two strong bets. But it was a producer, and she said, "Hey, you got some products, right?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you want to be on Shark Tank, Good Morning America?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, well, I need you to send me. It doesn't have to be overproduced, just you on camera pitching your product." I got off the phone probably like 10:40. I called my team. They all wanted to go into the office to start filming. I'm like, "I'm going to sleep. See you at 5 a.m." Got up at 5, wrote a script. We did 10 takes because ultimately she told me she needed it by 9 a.m. the next morning, which I told her I'm on a flight. She said, well, that's your call. I need it by 9 to make a decision. We filmed 10 of them, took the first one. I sent it in, jumped on a flight, landed at 2 in the afternoon. And she said, we love it. I'll see you on Good Morning America Friday. And that's where that started. So that was the first time. And it really went well. Ended up doing a lot of work with Barbara Cochran on that. The second one was a little different. I partnered with somebody on a baby product, which are not, baby products in general are not easy. I submitted, you hear about all the stories of people waiting in line for 2 days, pitching. I literally did what my friend Aaron Krause did at Scrub Daddy. I submitted an email with several of my products. Driving down the road, my wife was in the car with me. I get a call. It's a Saturday morning. It's Shark Tank. It's one of the talent scouts for Shark Tank saying, hey, we love your products. We want you to start. And immediately you get a call like that, you think, oh my God, I'm on Shark Tank. That's just the beginning. I think we had to do like 10 videos afterwards. But she said, we like your products. I said, can I submit more than one? She said, no, you can only do one. So pick one. I picked a baby product. It reminded me of Squatty Potty. It was Super Potty Trainer. It was a potty training device that sat on the toilet bowl and trained your child how to potty train the right way the first time. Not going through all these iterations. It was clean. It wasn't messy. It was transferable. It was portable. So it was really a pretty cool product. And I was manufacturing it in the U.S., which is another big benefit. And I'll tell you about that after we air it. Submitted it. And I had just gotten to Walmart in February. So this is 2020. I just got into Walmart, so we're shipping products. I had submitted to Shark Tank, and then COVID hit. So during that time, my mother was passing away. I was dealing with shipping to Walmart and trying to get on Shark Tank. So it was a pretty stressful time for me personally. We ended up submitting it. They called us. They liked it. And then every time you go through these iterations, you get a different producer till you finally get somebody assigned to you, which is good. But again, it was during COVID. So everything was Zoom. And I just remember the last comment was, your next video, make sure it's perfect. This is like, 10 videos in. I'm like, what do you mean? Every video we sent in, we thought was perfect. They said, no, Mark Burnett and his team are looking at the last ones to pick for the show. So like, no pressure, right?
Right.
So we submitted it. This is over a 3-month period, submitted it, and then they approved it, and it just happens all at once. Like I had proposed to Brandy on Good Morning America in December 2019. Then Robin Roberts and Good Morning America did a follow-up in August of 2020 at my house, which aired live. So I had Shark Tank, wanted to put me on a plane. I had to film Good Morning America and then shoot my actual episode of Shark Tank during COVID in a room for 11 days. Couldn't even go in the hallway, like literally locked in a room for 11 days. So it was pretty stressful timing.
Well, you had a lot.
It all worked out.
Sorry, you had a lot going on during that time. Like you're with just life was doing life and you were going after these big ideas. Can you walk me through for like the people that go through the struggle of trying to figure this stuff out and they have life happening at the same time? Like, can you walk me through a little bit like what was in your mind? Like how did you coach yourself through that mindset wise?
Yeah, I think I've always had the mindset of being successful, and that was a big deal for me, right? I was always really competitive. I was youngest in the family, so I was always had that mindset of I didn't have a whole lot of fear, and risk to me is just part of life. I mean, I was still the youngest executive to run a BMW plant at age 31 in a German company, and I moved my whole family from the north to the south. So that alone was a pretty big risk, right? And I just always felt that way that it was it's really important. So you have to really compartmentalize what you're working on, what your life is about, and what you're focused on and trying to achieve. And in that case, truly trying to achieve of getting on Shark Tank. And I had so many people counting on me. I didn't want to let anybody down. I had my family, had my kids always calling me, I had friends, my partner. So there's a lot that was happening. And the last thing you want to do is get on Shark Tank and freeze or do something crazy that's memorable forever. We wanted the opposite of that. We want to do our pitch and make sure that was memorable. And it has been. We've aired that I know of about 40 times now. You know,
Wow.
even after Shark Tank aired on the grand finale of season 12, I think we aired 3 or 4 more times before the new season. You're lucky if you aired 2 more times. So it resonated with a lot of people. It was good entertainment, a lot of drama. And ultimately, when I look back, it was a lot of fun. And it led me to Daymond John, of course. And he's become a personal friend of mine.
Well, talk us through that. Like, what is some of the lessons that you've taken from working with people at such a high level and under such high pressure too? Like you mentioned the word pressure a few times. So what are some of the things that you've learned from that people might be able to apply to their life?
One thing I learned after Shark Tank, and then really we did a deal with Lori and Damon. Damon had a real interest in me personally and in our brand. I mean, I just had a fireside chat with him in Greenville, South Carolina at my event. And he talked a lot about that, how he looks at the individual. And I just felt like there was a connection there. He was always very good to me. Then I became, over 5 years, really built a relationship, became a really, really good friends. And I feel like I can count on him for anything. But the big message for me is not ever letting someone down. If somebody counts on you to deliver, to make sure you do what's in your power to deliver. And it's all about credibility. And I think that's always been part of the relationship I've had with Damon is that when I say I'm going to do something, I don't ask for anything. Like he's never asked me for anything. He's done a lot of wonderful things for my family and my son. This jersey I have on right now, Chris put on this side, he put on Shark Group and Damon wore it. Part of his Chris's clothes collection, and Damon pitched products all week while wearing Chris's shirt. Things like that. He's just a good human, and he understands the journey and how hard it is. And he's become really successful, but he's always giving back. And that's one thing for me is that I felt not to ever ask to deliver, to give more than I would ever receive. And that always seems to work out. And for that relationship with Damon and I, just to sit down with him in Greenville at my event and talk through some of those milestones was pretty cool. And I think everyone that was there can see the chemistry between us and really the way we feel about each other. And the man, I didn't even know the man, and he called me when my dad passed away and sent these huge flowers. I mean, I just think like he didn't have to do any of that. He's all, he travels, I forget what it is, 265 days a year. I mean, the man's always on the road. For him to think of me and to call me at that moment meant a lot to me. And that's something personally I'll never forget.
Take me inside one of those big launches, like at BMW you mentioned. Like, what do people not see behind the scenes that would be helpful to know?
Yeah, so on the 1.8 turn gas cap, a lot of development goes into that. Like you see the end result is the car with a 1.8 turn gas cap, and the whole goal was to have. That's when the releases came out, and it had to have zero permeation to the atmosphere. So you had to have a system that was completely enclosed and circulated any fumes or any type of pressure inside the tank. And if you left your gas cap off back in the day, you get a little notification on your dash. And because the pressure inside the tank was not reading correctly, so most people would bring it to the dealership, but it solved its own problem if you put the cap back on. So we had the fuel system, the little pump, the entire tank, the filler neck, all the way up to the gas cap. All of that was developed over a 3-year period. So you see, what you don't see is a lot of engineering changes. I think we did 10 crash tests, and each crash test is about $250,000 at the facility. So you try to get as many products onto a car, and then they crash it. Literally, the government regulation is 35 miles an hour. We would do it at 55 miles an hour and try to get the system to fail. Then they would turn it upside down and see for leaks. We use starter fluid, so there's no explosion, but it's similar to actual fuel. And then if you had a problem, you had to redesign it, had to have an engineering change, and then resubmit it. So what you don't see is the number of iterations behind, from design to testing, before it actually hits the test tracks in like Arizona and Alaska. It has to pass cold test and heat test before it ever hits the market. But what interesting was that gas cap was the first cap to hit the market, and then everyone followed afterwards. I think GM came out with a quarter turn, BMW came out with a snap, so it truly revolutionized the industry.
And what I heard there was a lot that happened, a lot of iterations behind the scenes that people don't know about. And that made me think of being an entrepreneur or building a business or trying to be like a content creator or whatever your path is in this world. There's no such thing as overnight success, only overnight fame. And I think a lot of people kind of forget about all of those different things that happen behind the scenes to build the human or to build the opportunity or to build the honestly even relationships. So I want it makes me curious of something in your career, something in your journey that should have worked and didn't, and what you learned from it.
I think every entrepreneur thinks they got the next, I can't tell how many people tell me $1 million. Some people tell me $1 billion idea. And when they tell me, I say, can we just start with millions? Like you skipped all that, went to billion. Like you have to have some realistic viewpoint because not everything makes it. I think it's 2% of the products actually ever hit the market. There's a ton of patents that never even get marketed or get produced. So I always say, like, everyone that I work with or have worked with think they have the next biggest idea. And that's fine. You can have really great visuals and have ambitions and really believe that. But the reality is, you got to start from point A and then work through the process because very, very rare does someone launch a product and it just takes off. I think so, a lot of people think they launch a product and they have the greatest website and it's going to sell millions. And I'm like, my first question is, yeah, okay, you got a great website, but how are you driving people to that website? So I always start with make sure your expectations are right from the beginning. Launching a product is not easy. It's a lot of time, takes a lot of capital, and you have to be a little lucky along the way. What have I done? And I don't know. I've always been really selective. I haven't had too many. I didn't want to call them failures because I've taken high risks, but they've been really educated risks. Not everything makes it to the market, but I know my expectations up front that it may not. So I'm very careful when I release. I'm very careful when I self-fund because these things will put you in a bankrupt situation really quick. But I'll give you a really good example. The last product I got on Shark Tank was a baby product, and I had gotten into Walmart. They wanted us to ship 15,500 units, 400 stores. I was making in the U.S., so it was really good for me. I was producing it in the U.S., and guess what? March 6th was the first delivery to the stores. COVID hit. But they wanted me to continue to build over 15,000 units a week. I remember having this blowout saying, I'm not doing any more units. Like, I've been going to Walmart and nobody is shopping for baby products. Couldn't even get into Walmart at the time. They had waiting lists. Like, people are buying food. So I just said, if I'm in violation of a contract, it's for the right reasons, but I'm not shipping you 15,000 units. And if I had continued to do that, it would have bankrupted us. I mean, literally, it would have bankrupted me personally because I was funding it. I didn't have investors. I was the investor with my partner funding the entire program. So I was very smart on how I treated that. But again, it was a tough decision. And it was one that I decided that I was going to take on. If I got penalized, fine. But if we kept building 15,000 units, I would have hurt a lot of people. I would have killed the product. I would have killed the plant personnel. We had manufacturing in the US. And my personal bank account would have taken a massive hit. And it turned out we had enough sales to get on Shark Tank, which ultimately led us to a really big exit, right? When we aired on season 12, I had this big airing party. I think within 2 minutes, I sold over 8,000 units. We sold out of Amazon, like within 2 minutes. Before the show was even over, we had like 10,000 new orders. And we shipped all of that within 7 days because it was produced in the US. So that's a risk that could have been catastrophic if it wasn't managed correctly.
Well, that's difficult to figure out when the right time is to put your foot down, but it sounds like it was the right choice for a lot of reasons, and here we are today. So it was, it paid off in big time. And it has enabled you to go on and now kind of like foster and develop these other creators and inventors and all these great ideas. And lots of people have great ideas. Like lots of people have a
Mhm.
lot of great ideas. But what separates a great idea from something that you can actually build?
Action. Everyone says, I can't tell you how many people said, I've seen that, I had that idea, but somebody else acted on it. And I tell everybody, if you don't make that move with your idea, you'll see it in the market. If it's a really good idea and it has a lot of potential, you're going to see that in the market and wish you did. And that's what I believe. If you have this idea, all it takes is a quick sketch, some searches, but you have to act on it to make it a reality. If you don't, and it's a good idea, someone else will, and you'll see it in the market, and you wish that you have taken the opportunity.
When someone comes to you with a good idea, what are you watching for? Like, what is one or two things that you lean in when you hear these certain things?
I look at the person, honestly. If I can't work with you and you're a Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-all, I'm not interested because I just know the path is going to be rough and you're going to make decisions that I'm not going to be interested in. And it's funny because Daymond mentioned all of this in my fireside chat, how he truly looks at the entrepreneur first, right? You have a good product and a great entrepreneur, you have a great mix, and we can do many things together. But I've always felt that way, gut feeling. I have so many people that think they know more than they actually know until they know and it's too late. And or I get people that say they want to partner with me. So I always say, okay, you want to partner with me. So what does that look like? You want me to fund it for you because that's not truly a partnership, right? A partnership is really someone who wants to help use your expertise to help them launch it. They have investors, they're gonna fund it, and you're gonna really truly be a partner to get it to the next level or get it out in the market. So I'm very careful on the individual now. I've learned that over the last 7 years or so. Really, the who you work with is the most important thing because it determines whether you're going to have fun or you're going to be miserable.
I don't want to assume that everybody can gather this from our conversation, but you are fun to work with. Anybody and everybody would want to work with you because I think you're just like you're a fun guy. And
Thank
I'm
you.
wondering how you use fun to make these ideas come to life. Like what's maybe something fun that you've done recently? I mean, I think I know the answer to this actually, but what's something fun that you've done recently that reminds you why you're doing what you're doing?
Even when when I managed really big companies, I always felt like if you had to come to work and be miserable, you weren't the person that I wanted working for me. Right. So I tried to make the environment fun. I tried to always make it where it was proactive, where we had big company outings. We had kids at the plant. We had your family would come in and see everything you do, cookouts. We had Halloween specials. We had like, July 4th, just always made it so that you love coming to work. And oh, yeah, the better the company did, the more you got rewarded. So I would have big bonus plans based on your good quality and throughput and meeting goals. I just always felt like if you could have fun at work, then it's not really work, right? You look forward to seeing someone that you go to work with. We had baseball teams, softball teams, basketball teams. Literally, we wouldn't bring anybody from the outside in. We would use our company teams. And one year we were number one in the state. So people had all-star teams they were bringing in. That's how much talent we had, and it was like a big deal, right? To have we were in the media all the time. To have that kind of exposure was great. And what I do and what I just did recently to bring people from all over the country. I mean, literally from California, we had people in Milwaukee, New York, Miami, Indiana, Michigan, all over the country to Greenville, and then bring all these kids from the universities as part of this pitch event outdoors. Talk about taking a gamble. It was beautiful weather. It was 76 degrees outside. It felt like a family reunion, like a cookout, like just a. And that's the response back. People are saying, I don't know how you took such a serious thing of pitching and product advancement and brought it to an environment where it felt really cool. The vibe was great. We were relaxed in a beautiful setting. So I achieved my goal. Everyone's still talking about it. Then we brought in Daymond at night and did it again outside. It was just a really cool vibe. And that was, to me, as gratifying as you can get to bring that many people into one area and have them come back and tell you what you envisioned actually happened. Pretty exciting. It was a lot of fun. That's what I love to do.
I think there's going to be more of them, yes.
Yes, yeah, I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna do a couple a year, but I like to do four a year. Ultimately, it's a lot of work, it's a big expense, but take them throughout the country. I've already got 4 or 5 people reaching out to me, wanting them doing different parts of the country under different circumstances. So I have a footprint on how to do it, and I've been sending that out. And then I'm gonna start doing these monthly webinars where I bring the community together once a month so we can all talk about what each individual is working on and cover ground free of charge. And you have entrepreneurs, inventors, and the pros all together at one time.
I love that idea. The webinar idea sounds great. And you're building community around good ideas, which,
Yes,
having
100%.
having the right people in your circle changes literally everything.
It's
So,
the most important thing.
yeah. I mean, what have you learned from being in these rooms with these people and that you plan on then translating into the communities that you're building?
But what I find is when you have the right people on your team and the right people in the community, they all want to help each other. All it takes is 1 or 2 people, and I've had this, where they take advantage of the situation. They show up at these events. They don't want to sponsor. They just want to be there to take business and never give back. Those are the people we don't want. I'm not kidding. I'm quick now to kick them out of the club, literally, because it doesn't have any value, doesn't benefit anyone but them or their company. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to build a community and to help everyone, right? I mean, sure, certain people need more help than others. But if you're part of the community and we have these big events and you want to be part of it, then you have to also give. It can't be one way. It has to be a win-win. So that's how I see it. When we have these type of events, and this last event probably had the best group that I've been around since I've been doing these. It was incredibly fun.
I've had the joy and honor to know a handful, not everybody, but I knew like a small number of people that were at the pitch the pros in
Mhm.
Greenville. And you're right. So as a leader, like of a company or of a team, how do you build that sense of community and that mindset that you talk through in your team?
Yeah, I think it starts with who has core values, right? And then do they align with your core values? And then I look at what am I really good at? I know what I'm good at, and I know what I don't like to do. Those are the ones who love to do that. Those are the people that need to be on your team. So then you have everybody doing what they love to do, right? Like some people don't want to be in front of a camera. I love being in front of a camera. I'm fine with it. I don't like doing all this stuff in the background, right? I don't like doing all the prep work for being on TV or all the stuff for social media. So you have folks doing that in the background, and I could then be on the forefront. And it works for everybody because it just gives you a good blend. I have good IP attorneys, right? We have good marketing folks, good social media people, good distribution, good manufacturers. So I just try to cover everybody in my group that can handle a launch of a product. And then if you want to license it, we have those people as well. And it just makes for a really good network of individuals who want to win-win for everyone, including, the entrepreneur. They get the benefit of a group who wants everyone to win.
Amen. We need more of this mindset in the world for real.
100%.
So you shared with me in a different conversation that we had this great story about Ford, and I can't remember all the details, but my husband he bleeds Ford blue. So can you walk us through some like what that was like and what working with Ford was like for you in terms of how it led you to where you are, but also just the experience of being with a big organization like that has people like my husband who
Mhm.
have been lifelong fans.
Ironically, I was there as an engineer, then got promoted to engineering manager and director of engineering. Well, that led me to BMW because my name had gotten, out in the market to where they wanted someone like me as an engineer to run their plant at BMW. So it was, it's a lot of pressure in the background because there's Every vehicle has certain parts of the vehicle that you're responsible for. I had fuel systems. So you have timelines you have to meet, you have dates, you have to get design and manufacturing and development. So I had all of that as a chief design engineer. I had all the requirements of getting all of that ready to be packaged for a release. They used to call it back in the day Q1. I'm really dating myself now, as opposed like BMW called it media days, where they would release cars to the media. So all of that in the background is a lot of hours of work, a lot of development, a lot of trials, of testing. When something doesn't go right, you got to redo it. And then every time you redo it, the end date doesn't change. Just the pressure of hitting the end date changes. And that means all the suppliers that you work with. Let's face it, Ford and BMW, they don't manufacture anything, right? They truly build vehicles. So it's a community of suppliers, right? BMW came to Greenville, and they brought in a number of suppliers. And now this thing is blown up where they're the largest exporter in the world. They do all the X's, and Greenville you've been to Greenville, has blown up. Like they're on the map now. Back in the day, and Greenville was a bakery and textile state. Now it's a home of BMW. It's a home of Michelin. It's a home of GE. It's really grown into something incredible. And just looking from 95 until now, you wouldn't even recognize it, especially downtown. Downtown has completely changed. And that's what it does. And you look at now, like Michigan, where it's changed a little bit, right? They're not producing as much. All that's moving south, right? Volkswagen is coming to Columbia. Mercedes is in Alabama. I think Kia is in Tennessee. So this whole area now is becoming the automotive capital of the world.
Not to mention Greenville's just pretty. Like
It
I
is.
I mean I was there I live in Wisconsin, and it was brown and cold and just icky in February, I think, or March when I was there. And then I came to Greenville, and it was green and pretty and warm and sunny, and I'm like, why do we live in Wisconsin again?
Yeah, I know. I really missed when I left Greenville to go back. I'm glad I did because my kids got to know my family. But it's April, right? It's going to be May, and it's like the kids playing ball up north. Their arms are sore. It's cold. It's rainy. I've been playing ball down here for 2 months.
Right.
It's a whole different mindset.
Right. My kid's soccer game got canceled yesterday because it was like a swamp in
Yeah.
that's just what it's like up here.
Well,
But
plus you guys are getting, I saw today, some really cold weather.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, and then like tornadoes of like last week.
Yeah.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Um we
Say it 10 times.
right. So you worked in engineering and entrepreneurship, which, that's not always the most easy transition, I don't think. So I'm curious what those worlds, like engineers and entrepreneurs, like what those worlds get wrong about each other.
Well, I would say I'm a little unique, right? Most engineers aren't able to get on in front of a camera and
Right.
tell a story, right?
Yeah.
That's my mom. I really believe that was my mom. But I think at age 13, I go way back. I mean, I think about how I was as a kid and being around her all the time. I had two older brothers, but she cultivated that whole storytelling in me. And I loved working with my hands. And, I tell my kids back in the day, there was no YouTube. I had to buy a book and figure out how to change a tie rod. I just did it. I know how to, you read a book, follow procedure. And that's what I think the engineering side for me gave me a lot of discipline. Like when you're supposed to be at somewhere at 10 o'clock, you don't show up at 10 o'clock. You show up early, right? Because if you show up on time, you're late. It has a little bit of that military, but my family is in the military, but I just believe it's discipline. I always felt like data speaks louder. Data-driven decisions speaks louder than someone's opinion, right? It's good to be able to talk it, but I always felt like as an engineer, you could have the best design in the world or the best product in the world. If you can't explain it or really pitch it properly, it's boring, right? If you talk technical, I have a lean Six Sigma master black belt under my wings. It's all technical. Nobody cares. You lose them, right? So to make it fun and talk about how you're going to fix a process and really see the end results, that to me is important. An entrepreneur goes hand in hand. I think the problem some entrepreneurs may have is they don't have the discipline of being organized, and they don't understand truly the discipline of what it takes to release a product. So you're all over the map. You may work on your website first and not look at searches to see if your product is really got a market or get some customer feedback. I think you got to have some working prototype to understand maybe you do have something. Then you need to check to make sure you do have something and you can get some provisionals on it. Then you've got to take steps to get it into the market. And I always forget about marketing. And in the end, marketing is one of the most important things. And they run out of money. So all of that, I think, all that discipline and having a strong financial budget, really understanding where to spend the money up front, what work to do first before bouncing all over the place, I think is critical. And that's for me, that's where being an engineer and being disciplined and understanding the process really helps me stay focused.
They can't forget marketing. But come
I'm telling you, it
on.
happens all the time.
I
I
love
have people telling me they spent 8 grand on a website. And I go, first of all, 8 grand on a website, like what did you build? They said, well, I wanted to make it look really good so I can sell product. I'm like, that's great. How does anybody know your product exists? I mean, you have to drive them to your website, and that's marketing, 100%.
100%. Super important. Chris, what would you tell 22-year-old you?
Focus on you, focus on me. I think when you're young, you want to do a lot of different things. You want to have a path. I always had this vision of who I wanted to be as I got older. But I think when you start working for a company in corporate America, you're focused on other things but you. So I would say focus on you, really set your goals on your vision and what you want to become, and then do it.
Says easy, does hard, right? Like
Yeah.
the then do it part, I think, is where people get stuck. And I think too many good ideas die at that point. And it just, talking to you makes me just like my brain is firing with all these ideas. And I just wish that people could learn and lean in and hear you when you say like the most important thing to do is take action. So understanding that not every product or service is the same, like what is the most important first step when you're taking action? Like what can you do? What is, and I know understand that like that it's different for every different
Mhm.
area, but what would you say to people that feel that pull but don't know how to start?
Yeah, I would say don't try to do everything yourself. First of all, don't. You shouldn't know everything or be everything to everyone, right? You should know what you're good at. Like I don't ask my attorneys to be engineers,
Right.
right? And as an engineer, I don't try to be an attorney. I don't know the legal stuff. So I think at some point, I see people write provisionals, and that's fine. I mean, with AI, you can do some of that now, but in the end, you may not get the results you want. So I would say early on, find out what you're good at. Really focus on and believe what you're good at. And then when you're not, try to find some people to help you, because they may say, "Oh, it's expensive." Well, it's more expensive to make all the mistakes and do it wrong than have to go back and do it over again. And if you want to do it right and constantly follow through with the process, make sure you surround yourself with the right people and know when to get help and add somebody to your team. That's one of the biggest problems I see is everyone thinks you need an NDA. Everyone thinks you need, to be everything to everybody and you should know everything. It's not true. It's just not true. Yeah, because you can only be good at so many things. If you're gifted and you have that more than most people, that's great. But don't try to be something you're not.
Don't try to be something you're not. Yeah. That's a big one, I think, for people is too, and understanding that you need to ask for help. Like, I think a lot of times that's the hardest thing is like when you're scared and you need to ask for help, you're confessing to somebody that you don't know something, and you can feel dumb or they're gonna judge me or whatever. But it's all part of it, and it's super important.
And I think when you're younger, you have more of that than when you get older.
Yeah.
I've been around enough to know that that's the worst thing you could do. Honestly, it's just, fake it till you make it. That's all BS. And, trying to be something you're not. Just be you, focus on what you're good at and what you're not. Find somebody in your group that can help you continue to get to the next level.
What is something that you, I guess, would, if I handed you a megaphone and everybody that had a big idea had to listen, what would
I
you say?
think I'd go back to that whole comment of finding the right people. I think surrounding yourself, you become who you are at some point with who you surround yourself with. And I think I find that I can sit in a room with anybody now. I can sit in a room with the president of the United States if I had to. I just know I can. I mean, I just sat down with Daymond John. He's the most sought after speaker in the world right now, and had this amazing fireside chat. And people said that the chemistry was unbelievable. Like you seem like you guys hang out all the time. And I just felt like I know him, he knows me, and we've been able to do things together. And he's been very respectful, and vice versa. And the chemistry is there. And I feel like when you surround yourself with the right people, it just elevates you. It makes you better. I always, even at BMW, I had people with me that graduated from MIT or Harvard, and that never intimidated me. I always felt like a couple of these people made me better. They made me strive to achieve new heights. And I think if you're just going to hang down low, you're always going to be that same person, and you're never going to achieve greatness. And when you put yourself in a situation where you surround yourself with people that want to learn, want to be coached, and then you are also listening more than you're talking, you elevate your own game. And that's what I would say.
It reminds me a little bit of when I did my first 5K. Like I was a couch to 5K person. I never had run a mile in my life. And standing in that starting line with all those people that, varying levels of had run 5Ks before. Most of them had, if not more, marathons and all that. And being
Mhm.
around that energy, like that's like the most visceral way that I can describe what you're saying is like surrounding yourself with the right people that elevate you. Because
Right?
I did run that first mile of my 5K and I paid for it for like a week. But
Yeah.
because I was with that energy and with those people, they took me up a level, and it was like something I felt in my body. So when you're describing that, that's what came to mind for me. I was like, yes, I felt that at my first 5K, and it was
Yeah.
insane. And
It,
I never had run a mile in less than 16 minutes before, but that day I think I did it in 13. And that's like unreal to me.
yeah, you hype yourself up. I feel like with live TV, like I'll get asked, you want to do it live? You want to do it as a segment taped? I'm like, no, I want to do it live
Yeah.
because it's forever. It's like excitement. There's a lot of energy involved with it, and if you make a mistake, that's it. You can't cut it. Everyone's going to see it. So you want to be prepared. And I always feel there's more excitement with doing stuff live than if you do a tape and say cut, redo it. That's
Right.
just me.
Agreed. Well, the next talk we have, maybe we'll do it on a YouTube live or something. Because I agree with you. And I think that
Yeah.
there's something to be said for that. So you may know this or you may not, I don't know. But I love music. It does something for my soul that is healing and restorative. And I've been asking all of my guests what their song of survival is. So a song that like grounds you or keeps you going when things are hard. Do you have a song like that?
I love Matchbox 20. I got a chance to meet Rob Thomas, and a funny story I'll tell you before I tell you the song. This is before I knew Chris Trapper, who writes with him, before I knew Jim, who was his photographer. And it's kind of ironic. We were at Mohegan at one of his concerts, and I forgot I had VIP passes. It was like 20 of us. So we're sitting in the VIP room, and his publicist comes out talking to us and just having a good time filming us. So I asked him, I said, how can I meet Rob? And he laughed. He said, you and 100,000 people. I said, I don't really care about the other 100,000. How do I meet them? Anyways, we filmed some stuff for him. So that night, I think we were in the first section, front row. We were coming back from the concession stand, and I look, and he's coming off the stage, and he's singing "This Is How a Heart Breaks." And I used to play that to my son Tyler when he was like 10 to get him pumped up for football. Well, he's singing it coming off the stage, and I'm looking, and he's walking towards us. And I'm like, my brain is like in shock. So I put my beverage down, I get everything ready. This security surrounds us. He literally sings the entire song. He got great photos, high fiving me. He's got his arm around Brand. He sings the entire song to her, and it was like unforgettable. Like she couldn't, like, still to this day. And her facial expressions on the pictures are like unbelievable. So I've been a huge a huge Matchbox 20 fan. And when I had moved to Carolina, the song Real World is what sat with me. That whole song, all the words in it. It was a lot of how I was transforming from an engineer to an executive, and it was that time of my life. And I've been a fan of his forever. And that was the song that resonates the most with me. And to think about that moment now, to have met him, it was pretty epic. It was pretty cool.
It sounds epic.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of another epic moment that you had in your life where you proposed on Good Morning America.
Yeah, that was really good.
Talk us through that story because that's a really good story.
Yeah, so Brandy and I have been together for 15 years, and we never talked marriage because it wasn't a big deal. We both had kids that knew each other before we met, and I remember with Tyler. Tyler was 21, so this is 2019 in December. This is probably like August, and I'm talking to Tyler saying, "Hey, I proposed to Brandy," and he laughed on Good Morning America, and he laughed at me. I'm like, "What do you mean, dude?" He goes, "I'm not gonna let you do that." So I happened to text my contact, and sometimes it takes an hour to 3 hours to get back, depending on where they are. She responded within a minute, and she said, "Hey, listen, we can do something. I don't know if we can do it live because we're booked for 3 months." I said, "Well, whatever." And then she sent me 4 VIP passes, and Tyler's like, "What?" And I told him I had known Michael Strahan, a bunch of camera guys. I still don't think he believed me, so I didn't tell anybody. So Tyler and I went out, picked out a ring. I kept this a secret. For me, it was like eternity. It was like 4 months. I didn't tell anybody. I just told everybody that day to watch the show. All right. So we get there. We have to be there like 5:30, and they let us in. There's nobody there. No one's talking to me now. The camera guys, nobody. I'm like, geez, well, I didn't want to blow it, right? So Brandy says, why are you so nervous? Like, you don't seem like you're never nervous when you pitch your products. I said, I don't have my lines down yet. She, what do you mean I don't have your lines down yet? Well, they wanted me to talk about Robin Roberts, how I met her and how I knew her before going into it. And I was talking to some of the people on the set at 3:30 in the morning, and Brandy's like, who are you talking to? I said, no, nothing. I'm just doing some work. And they were telling me how they were going to do it with Brandy. And then they called me back at 5:30 as I was walking there. Scrap it all. They said, we're going to hand you the mic. You're going to go live. And this is the exact word. He said, bring the ring and don't F it up. I'm like, oh, more added pressure. Great. So I was getting my lines down. Literally, they handed me the mic at like 8:01 coming back from a commercial. I started talking about Robin Roberts and the whole audience, even though that's when there was an audience there. Had no idea what was going on. Then I started saying, me and Brandy have been together for 15 years. And then they start going nuts. They knew what was coming. So I proposed to her. She was in shock. I mean, literally in shock. So much that the producers came out and asked me, did she say yes? I'm like, she's sitting right here. Said, of course I did. They said, well, did she swear? And Tyler said, yep. So I guess I didn't hear, but I guess when I was proposing to her, she said, no effing way. Because she was in shock. So they were freaking out, trying to cut it on the West Coast. It was the funniest thing. I remember saying to her, nice going. There's probably 3 million people watching right now. And you messed up the West Coast. And she felt so bad. And then Robin Roberts came back in August and did another whole segment, talked about my shoes and remembering that day. It was really cool. And that was probably the best surprise I ever pulled off.
Pretty cool, I'd say. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it was good. And then, I had met Robin Roberts before that in a national commercial. And I had talked about where I met her in a grocery store. I lived in Bristol, Connecticut, right next to ESPN. And she had just started her career in 1990. And I remember seeing her with her parents. And I talked to her for like 20 minutes. She introduced me to her parents. And Brandy never believed me. She's like, she's not going to remember you. And literally, we did this commercial. And Robin Roberts called me over. And we were talking. Brandy's like, oh, my God, here we go. He's been talking about this for 7 years. And she said, yeah, when we met, I think it was A&P, and she said, I don't introduce anybody to my parents. I'll never forget that moment. And then she tweeted me later saying, it was so good to see you after so long. I'll never forget you meeting my mom and dad. And they were all both crying. That was such a cool moment, I'll tell you. So I've had some fun times on Good Morning America. They're really good people.
Good people is the good people is the name of the game today. Like
100%.
honestly, truly.
Yes.
And it makes all the difference. And you're something that I've noticed is you light up when you talk about the people that you care about. And that's really cool to me because I'm a similar human in that regard where I do connect deeply with people at a level that doesn't always make sense right away. And I respect and admire that about you. So what
Thank you.
has being a husband to Brandy and being a dad to your kids, what has that taught you about being a better entrepreneur?
I think it's about commitment, honestly, and it's about not letting anybody down. Even when I went on Shark Tank, I had so many things going on, and it was locked in a room for 11 days. I felt like my number one goal was I don't want to let anybody down. People freeze and they do things, they say stuff that's not right, and it makes for bad TV. I felt like I wanted to know what I was doing, make sure my pitch was good. I had somebody send me, Chris Guerrera, send me every question I ever asked. That's all I did was study every question. So I was really prepared. I didn't want to let my family down, my wife, my kids, friends, my partner. That's what I felt like. For me, it was I wanted to perform and not let anybody down. And that was pressure beyond belief. And that's self-inflicted pressure. But that's what I always felt because it's kind of a funny story. When they finally brought us down on the 11th day, they had us in the bullpen. Again, it was all during COVID. So it was only 4 people all spread out in this bullpen. And we were doing our last pitch. And so we went down to 11. We didn't pitch until 5. And I actually made a mistake when we were doing the pitch. And the producer was like, "You're just kidding, right?" I said, "No, I know. I made a mistake. It's no big deal." I said, when the cameras are rolling, they're like, "Oh, my God, you need to know all his lines. You need to know her lines." And I'm like, "Relax. When the camera's on, I'm going to be good." And I was. But it just, I must have said this thing 1,000 times. And it was just hurry up and wait. And all of it was Zoom until it wasn't Zoom. And I was like, I just want to get this over with now. So that was my big take is being a dad and a husband is always being there when everyone needs me, knowing whenever the phone rings, I answer it, knowing when they need me to show up, I always show up. And that's all part of commitment and being true to who you are and really being part of everyone's life. So when I leave the world someday, they'll know that whenever they needed me, I was there.
You are having a profound impact on the world around you and the bigger world around that. So I am so grateful that we crossed paths in beautiful, sunny Greenville,
Yes.
2 months ago or a month ago or whatever it was. I'm so grateful for you, for your friendship, for your energy, for your fire, and for pouring into me and to the viewers and listeners today. Chris, what else would you add that I didn't ask you today?
I don't know. I love having fun. I've been working hard my whole life, and I don't think I'm ever going to retire. I just like helping people, and I enjoy what I do. And being around the right people just energizes me. So I'm going to continue to build a network and have fun doing it.
And stay tuned for all that good stuff, guys.
Yes.
So we will see you next time on Quick Before You Forget. Thank you for being here with me today on Quick Before You Forget. Please like, share, and subscribe as that helps the show so much, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on Quick Before You Forget.